It's another Gettin Real with Ashleydawn, and this video I want to title When You Need It Most. When You Need It Most. So I want to preface this by talking to you about a story of somebody who loved God and loved his son, but had to choose if he loved God or if he loved his son more. So Abraham, who had a child, Isaac, who was the promise from God, God asked him to sacrifice Isaac. And as he was going up to lay him at the altar and sacrifice him, to present an offering to the Lord, I'm sure he was thinking all kinds of things, and he was struggling to trust God, struggling to believe what God told him was true, struggling to believe God at his word, struggling to believe that he was chosen, struggling to believe that he was loved, struggling. Life circumstances were a struggle. He had done some things, the whole Ishmael, that whole thing, he had made a mess that God didn't call him to make, and then, God had made a promise, and he kind of took things into his own hands and slept with the what is it, concubine, I guess that's what it's called, the helper girl, and so had an illegitimate child that he wasn't supposed to have, and he had just made a mess of his life. And so, God had redeemed that. God had fulfilled his promise for Sarah and him, and in that, he still had to trust God. God was asking him for the most precious thing to him, and he had to trust God. And so I'm sure as he was walking up the mountain to the altar to sacrifice his prize, his son, his answered prayer, his promise of an inheritance, right? I'm sure he was questioning God. Have you ever questioned God? You hear from him clearly, and you know you have a calling on your life, but you question him because you kind of don't know how that calling is going to be. You kind of don't know if what you're doing even matters. Well, just like Abraham, on the way to do what he knew God wanted him to do, but not really understanding how it was all going to work out, probably had some questions for God. God had some answers. So, to give a sacrifice, you have to have an animal. Well, as he was, going up, Isaac was the sacrifice, so he didn't bring an animal with him. He wasn't prepared for that. Well, God flipped the switch, and when he was getting ready to sacrifice his prize, God wasn't wanting him to give his son. He was just testing Abraham's trust in him to see if Abraham truly, truly trusted God. So the Lord tells Abraham when he's getting ready to sacrifice Isaac, no. I see that you trust me, and don't quote me, word for word. I don't have my Bible with me, but look it up in your Bible and read it. But I have prepared an offering for you. And so he looked to his right, and there was a ram in a bush that was caught. That was a sacrifice that God had provided for Abraham out of the obedience from Abraham listened to him. Abraham didn't know there'd be a ram there. He wasn't prepared for it, but God knew. And so God brought him exactly what he needed when he needed it most at the exact same time. So that's just a little preface. Today, I had no idea who I was going to sit next to at church. I normally sit different places every time I go. I've said this before. I didn't buy the chairs. They don't belong to me. And so I'm not going to sit in the same chair every time unless it's available. And I'm not going to kick people out of chairs because they're not mine to kick them out of anyway. So I never know who I'm going to sit next to. Well, I saw my sweet friend Jenny, and I asked her if anybody was sitting with her, and she said no. And so I was blessed to get to sit next to her. But that's just the start of the story. I had no idea how God was going to use her as a ram in my life today. My makeup's probably messed up because I've been crying. Sometimes I feel very overwhelmed because I know the call of God on my life, because I know how God speaks to me. I know his voice, and I know how rare it is that somebody gets to speak to God, that God speaks to somebody. And that's not to say I'm better than anybody else. That's to say I'm available, that I make myself available to God. If you want God to speak to you, make yourself available to Him. But it's heavy. It's a heavy calling. It's a heavy anointing, and I don't take it lightly. And it's hard sometimes. Like, I struggle. I struggle on a daily basis. God, is what I'm doing enough? God, am I making you happy? Am I pleasing you? I don't want to say or do anything that you don't want me to say or do. Like, God, am I on the right track? I do these videos for two reasons. One reason because, 11, 12 years ago, God told me to. And I had a little flip camera, and this is before like smartphones and stuff. Before, iPhones are real big. And I had a little flip camera, and I'd do these little videos, and I'd upload them, and my dad would tape them. And my dad was my biggest encourager in the whole world. He believed in me. He believed in God's calling in my life because he watched it his whole life. He watched God speak to me. He watched God use me. And so he'd always be telling me, like, Ash, you got a calling on your life. Like, Ash, you're writing. Ash, you're speaking. God has called you, and God has anointed you, and God is really using you. And so these videos, sometimes I wonder if anybody cares. Sometimes I wonder if they help anybody. That's my desire, is that they would help people, and that they would encourage people, and that somebody would watch this video and feel inspired to live the best life they possibly can, that they would be inspired to grab Jesus's hand and walk through life with Jesus and have a happy life and a holy life. And sometimes I wonder, like, am I wasting my time? Am I stupid? Sometimes I share some really vulnerable stuff on my videos, and I'm like, was that dumb? Should I have shared that much? Did I overshare? And I go back and forth, and I overanalyze them, and sometimes I kick myself, and I'm my worst critic, and I beat myself up sometimes. But today, God provided exactly what I needed when I needed it most. Jenny grabbed my hand and encouraged me and told me how much she loves my videos and how much they bless her and how much they encourage her. She had no idea how desperate my soul was for encouragement, how much I needed a confirmation that what I'm doing is the right thing to do, that what I'm doing is what God has called me to do. I needed that confirmation, and she was right there at just the right time. God literally sent her at just the right time to encourage me, so that I would know not to give up, so that I would know not to quit, so that I would know that He sees me. That just as much as I want everybody else to feel seen, I want to feel seen too. That just as much as I want to feel celebrated, just as much as I want everybody else to feel celebrated, He wants me to feel celebrated too. Just as much as I want everybody else to feel loved, He wants me to know that I am fully, completely, and wholly loved by Him. And I always will be. And today He sent Jenny, my sweet friend, to remind me, because I was starting to forget. God will send us exactly what we need when we need it most. He did today. He's been so faithful my whole life to send me people to remind me, to speak encouragement into me, to speak life into me, to remind me to keep going. It's like a marathon when you're running and you hit that wall and you get tired and your body starts telling you can't go on, and you just have somebody there saying, go, you only got one more mile, go, go, go. Today Jenny was telling me and encouraging me to get a book, or to write a book. She was saying, God has called you to write a devotional. God has called you to write books. And I'm like, yes, He has. That's more confirmation. And then she was telling me about my writings. I've been writing a lot for a couple magazines. She's encouraging me with that. I needed to sit next to her today. My soul needed to hear from her today, desperately. And God provided. What do you need? What do you need? I'm asking you, because you're the one watching this. What do you need? Maybe write it down on a Post-it note. Exactly what you need, what you have need for, what you feel you're missing out in your life. And then trust God for that. Because if God cares to send me somebody to remind me not to give up, to send me somebody to remind me that what I'm doing has value and what I'm doing has purpose, God can do the same thing for you. And all those needs that you have, whatever they are, God will provide for them in the perfect timing, not a moment too soon, not a moment too late, exactly when you need them. Every need that you have, it says in Philippians 4:19, that God will provide all your needs according to his riches and glory through Christ Jesus. I believe that's 4:19. I might be wrong. I think it's 4:19. It's Philippians, I know that much. Maybe it's 4:9. 4:9 or 4:9. Anyway, God will provide according to his riches, not including yours, not according to yours. You may be thinking, Ashleydawn, I got medical bills. Hey, guess what? I do too. Oh, I've got all these bills and I don't know how I'm going to get over them. Yeah, hey, you're not alone, sister. You're not alone, brother. Today, while I was in church, one of my sweet friends, and I won't mention his name because he likes to be anonymous. He's one of my viewers and subscribers and encouragers, sent me a Cash App. And he's been encouraging me to put my Cash App on here for years. And I did, and then a couple people used it, but not a lot. My Cash App, for any of those wondering, is the $ Innerbeauty101. INNERBEAUTY 101. If you feel led, do it. If not, don't. I don't care. But anyway, he sent me just a little reminder like, hey, I see you. God will send us exactly what we need when we need it most. He hasn't forgotten about us. That dream that's in your heart that you think God forgot about, that promise that he spoke to you as a little girl, or that promise he spoke to you as a little boy, or that promise he spoke to you in college, or that promise he spoke to you, insert time he spoke to you, he hasn't forgotten about it, and he doesn't want you to forget about it either. God is faithful. He keeps his promises. He's not like man. Men don't keep their promises. They break them all the time, and women do too. We're not perfect, but God is perfect, and he never forgets a promise. He never breaks a promise. God has good things for you. He has good things for me. And sometimes all it takes is someone coming alongside of us and reminding us that he's there and that we're not alone. Today, Jenny was that for me. And I pray that through this video that I'm that for you, that you know that God sees you, that he celebrates you, that he loves you, that those desires and dreams in your heart are there for a reason. He put them there. You are so very loved. You are so very loved. If you don't listen to anything else in my video, you are so very loved. Those dreams and desires that are in your heart are there for a reason. God's going to bring him to fruition. God's going to do all the things that you need him to do in your life. God's going to do everything that you've ever needed him to do and then some in his timing. And that's the hard part. His timing is not our timing. We can get so frustrated and like, God, when is this thing going to happen? Today I was praying and with the pastor was joking about, there was a visitor and he was saying, oh, but he's single ladies. And I was like, ugh. Not that this guy wasn't, attractive or anything. I was just thinking, like, how many single women are in this room that are waiting for God to bring that person in their life? How long have I been waiting for God to bring that person into my life? A long time. But I trust God. I trust that when the time is right, God will bring that person into my life. And if he doesn't, well, then I guess my life is just so good I don't need another person in it. Do you ever think of that? Like maybe your life is so good that that's why you don't have anybody else in it? That maybe they couldn't keep up with you? I don't know. These are just things that I think, and I say everything that I think, so there you go. You're not far from God, even if you feel like you are. Start talking to him. He wants to talk to you. He wants to hear from you. He wants to know everything that's on your mind and everything that's on your heart. You can cry out to him. You can share your frustrations with him. He loves you so, so very much. I hope this encouraged you. God will provide what you need. You can trust him. He is trustworthy. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. He's never going to abandon you. He's never going to leave you hungry. He's never going to leave you naked. He's never going to leave you without the things that you need. He's going to provide them at exactly the time that he needs you, that you need him to. You can trust him. I promise you can trust him. You can't trust a lot of people in the world, but you can trust God. I hope this encouraged you. I know it's encouraged me. Jenny, you're watching this, thank you. Thank you for allowing God to use you today. Thank you for allowing His word to be spoken through yours. Thank you for being obedient to Him, because it changed my whole day and essentially my life. Because sometimes I need encouragement too. Sometimes encouragers need to be encouraged too. Sometimes nurses need to have nurses help them. Sometimes moms need somebody to help them. Sometimes the helpers need help themselves. And sometimes the encouragers need encouragement too. So thank you, Jenny, for offering me encouragement today. And essentially every day, because you always post, you always comment, you always share, you always do really amazing things on a daily basis to show me how much you care and how much you just want me to know that I'm not alone and that God sees me. Thank you for that. I love you so much, and I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that has been watching this video for 16 minutes. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you know how loved you are, and I hope you don't give up on your dreams. Even when it's scary, even when it doesn't make sense, I hope that you don't give up on your dreams. I hope you don't give up on the calling of God on your life, that you don't give up on all the things that God has promised you and told you. Maybe the timing isn't right now. That's not to say it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen right now. God is with you. God is for you. God is going to help you. God is going to bring it to pass. God is going to provide. You got to trust Him. Maybe write on a note somewhere, God is going to provide, because He is. I love y'all. I'll catch you in the next one.